We have a great show for you today. We have power couple, two medical doctors. We have Dr. Todd Lefkowitz from Lefkowitz Plastic Surgery. And then we have Dr. Michelle O'Brien, who's an orthopedic surgeon. And they've been married for over 8 years. We talk to them about all things medical school, what their specialties are. We get into how they met and how their relationship has evolved, what it's like for Dr. Michelle being in the, as a mother, but being in a heavily dominated medical space. And we have so much fun together. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Dr. Randy here with Dr. Tom, as always, and we have a great show today. We have a power couple with us. We have Dr. Todd Lefkowitz from Lefkowitz Plastic Surgery. Did I get that right? Got it. And then we have Dr. Michelle O'Brien, who's an orthopedic surgeon as well, and they have been married since 2017, they told me.
Correct.
That's right. All right. Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on here. I've been excited about this because you guys are in like different areas of the medical center and kind of doing your own thing. But I've been curious about how you guys met each other, if it was at like a conference or at the hospital or somewhere like that. And then how did this all kind of come to be?
Full love story.
Yeah.
Got to go way back to Louisville, Kentucky.
What?
It's a real estate story, not so much a love story.
There is some truth to that statement.
So I just finished in New York City doing general surgery and moved to Louisville, Kentucky. So I was going to do 2 years in Louisville, Kentucky for plastic surgery, and ended up buying a condo in a smaller-ish complex, about 12 units. They had just renovated it, and I'm not very bright, and so I was the first one to buy in this condo complex. So through this process, I got to know the developer a little bit, and needless to say, Michelle was coming in to do her medical school training and education, and the developer met her and her father, and they were kind of touring the complex and so forth, and long story short, he was just trying to sell a condo. That's it. So he came to me and was like, hey, listen, there's a really cute girl. Maybe we'll introduce you. Maybe you'll tell her how great you like the condo, et cetera. And I was like, yeah, sure. Let's we'll set something up, and I'll be your salesperson. And needless to say, I got a call from a number that I had no idea where it was from, and we eventually met for.
You invited me for coffee, but you got a hot chocolate.
Yeah.
I did. On date one, he went hot chocolate.
I love that move.
No shame. Zero shame.
Were you like, this is a red flag?
I was like,
did you say?
I actually, before I went, told my mom if she didn't hear from me in a few hours, she should come looking for me because this guy I don't know is
Just
trying
ordered a hot
to
chocolate.
sell me a condo. But I got the condo appraised, and they had included the storage unit and part of the garage and the square footage. So my father and I did not buy a condo.
Oh, no.
But we did lease it. And so we lived across the hall from each other essentially for the first 2 years we were dating.
Which was helpful.
That's
obviously.
convenient.
That
Yes.
was convenient. So
And we were long distance for 7 years.
right
After
Wow.
After
Yeah.
that, yeah. And despite the red flags,
I persisted.
she still showed up.
It's
great.
Well, here's my hot take. I used a 50% off coupon on one of my first real dates with my now wife. And I think if you're just yourself, that's attractive.
Be yourself.
I never expected him to drink coffee, so that's good.
No,
So do you drink coffee now?
Not at all. Not at all.
Really?
Never did. Never got into it. Yeah. I don't have a good reason for it, but because everybody around us, right?
Yeah.
Everybody in medicine, it's part and parcel to what you do, but never got into it. But she still didn't hold it against me.
Did he go whipped cream? Like, was there
100%.
Oh, I didn't see that coming.
I'm not going to lie. I would have added a cherry if they had one.
I think this coffee shop was too highbrow for sprinkles, but they did in fact have whipped cream.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now,
Tiny
any other?
Brothers coffee, still around.
You didn't have a cat though, right?
No
No
cats.
No
No
cats.
cats.
All right.
No cats.
He actually tried to get a dog when he was general surgery resident. He got turned down by how many breeders?
5.
What?
Yeah. They saw right through the whole working.
He was like a real
hours.
general
Yeah.
surgery resident. Different.
Yeah.
There's no work hour rules.
Today's episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Columbia Family Chiropractic, with 3 easy-to-get-to locations, one in Forest Acres, which is by Trader Joe's, one in O'Neill Court by the DMV, and one in the Northeast by Sand Hills. You'll be sure to have somewhere near you. They offer a ton of services from corrective care, on-site digital x-rays, spinal decompression for bulging or herniated discs, dry needling for injuries, pediatric care, and a Class 4 laser. They accept all your major insurances. And if you mention this ad, you'll get a discount on your first appointment. Check out their website at cfc4health.com or Google Columbia Family Chiropractic. That's cfc4health.com.
Yeah. So when I went and tried to do that, I was in full disclosure, single New York City, having a dog helps or can be helpful in that situation.
Definitely.
And so my chief year there, my 5th year there, I was like, well, I think it'd be a great idea to get a dog. Not thinking anything through, right? How am I going to take care of this animal? How am I going to feed this animal? How am I going to take this animal out? Didn't have any money to pay somebody to do it. But
You're just thinking chicks.
The 20 minutes of the dog park's going to be nice.
That's kind of where I was.
That's great.
But the breeders, rightfully so, saw right through that. And we're like, nope.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a humbling experience. I don't know if anybody else has been denied by 5 different breeders.
Definitely not.
As a full-grown adult.
As a full-grown adult, And
You're a doctor.
Yeah,
That's great.
No, they were like, absolutely not. So.
And so I want to stay on the first date a little bit. Is that when your first kiss happened?
I don't think so. Not that time.
No.
What was it
Not
like?
that
I think that was
did
when
you
you
shake
invited
hands?
me.
How did you
Too many red
Like a
flags.
fist bump.
What was it? What was?
Was probably one of the times you invited me to
It was
Cumberland.
so memorable.
I don't know if anybody's ever asked us that.
Yeah, I must have been one of the nights that we went over to the apartment.
Todd
either
has a
mine or yours.
unique ability to eat every meal out.
no
So
cooking.
he would invite me oftentimes to a place where he was eating dinner.
Yep.
He was going to be there anyways.
Yeah.
So it was probably one of those nights where you would invite me. And we went to this great brewery called Cumberland.
Yeah.
Stay right in the middle
That's
there.
great.
Every Wednesday they would have like a special beer and a burger night. And I think it was probably one of those nights.
Yeah, a little beer breath kiss.
Yeah,
I
wonderful.
love those.
Yeah, probably out of convenience for her, just for me to be there.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah, I was there for the beer and the burger.
yeah, exactly.
Husband came with it.
That's right.
That's great.
That's right.
So 7 years apart.
Yeah.
Like what happened? Who moved where? What was the situation?
Well, so I went into orthopedics, obviously, and it's a pretty difficult match. So
You go where you go.
6% women, so there's that whole side of it, and then you're applying to like 70 programs, and you're interviewing at 17, and
Yeah.
you're hoping you get a spot. So I actually matched in Cincinnati, which is I'm from Northern Kentucky, so my parents live about 25 minutes from the medical center. So that was great because I had family close by, but we were long distance. And the year before I matched, he wanted to do his aesthetic fellowship. And he went to New York City and worked with a guy named Sherelle Aston, who's really wonderful and super famous, great surgeon, good educator. And so he was going to be there for that year anyways, and then he had to get a real job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then at that point, so we just kind of professionally and personally, we were just kind of at these different crossroads at different times based on the amount of training that we had to do. So eventually, she matched at the University of Cincinnati, which is a great orthopedic program. I was in my aesthetic fellowship back in New York City. I was like, okay, well now I have to get a job.
Yeah.
We got to figure things out. And full disclosure, I didn't come from money. We didn't have a whole lot of backing. So it was kind of like, hey, you kind of have to go where the opportunities are. My father was back here in Columbia, so I said, well, let me come back here. We'll get the practice started. So I joined one of the hospital systems here. They did a great job supporting me and just kind of got things rolling. And we always figured, well, we could always decide later on if we need to move somewhere else. But at some point, you don't have a road. There's no roadmap to 7 years long distance, right? At some point, you're like, okay, you've talked to everybody else that has done it, and they're like, well, you've now surpassed the time frame that we had to do it, so you guys have to kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
The amazing thing is, and I'm sure she'll remember this too, how many people, and it did not offend me at all because they were just expressing their opinions, how many people would literally just to your face be like, that's not going to work. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I appreciate your opinion. And I was like, well, tell me more. And they're like, well, it's just not going to work. They didn't have a great reason why, but I will tell you, more than one person, more than two people, more than three people had no problems.
Just
literally
voice,
just voicing. I mean, not
Letting
like
you
not like back to their friends and it gets back to you. It was just like straight up, yeah, it's not going to work, But we were lucky. We made it through. We worked hard to do it, and actually, I think in retrospect, she was so busy. I was so busy. I was trying to build a practice.
Right.
She was trying to survive orthopedic
School
training. It actually kind of gave us the opportunity to focus on ourselves and being kind of selfish in a way before we then had to kind of join. Because I will say that was a harder transition.
Getting together.
Back together.
Yeah, 100%. And so, because then you're like, okay, well, I can't just think of myself anymore. You know, so we had to work through that. But the long distance was, I would never wish it upon anybody else, but actually for us, I think it actually was a little bit of a blessing in disguise for us. So
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting too, because sometimes someone might look at you now and be like, oh yeah, easy for you guys to say, like, you've had it easy and like silver spoon and 2 doctors and like life's easy. But then they don't see all the years behind that of being like, well, I didn't really get to have a normal relationship for 7 years because I was training all over the country.
Right. Yeah. I was just trying to get a dog. That's it.
Couldn't even do that.
So
couldn't get a dog, but survived a 7-year long-term relationship.
Funny how life works out that way, But no, to your point, like, I think what a lot of people don't realize is just how few life choices are really in your control at that point. And you guys know that as well as anybody, right? You have worked so hard, during your life, but a lot of those life choices, I mean, you match where you match, you go where you go. Personal relationships be damned. It's just, figure it out. And, fortunately we were able to do that, but, it was some trials and tribulations for a long time.
Yeah.
I spent 8 years in Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is the coldest city in the world, over 500,000 people. So I feel that.
Yeah.
But it was the right thing to do at the right time based on the circumstances.
And that's the sacrifice you make, right? So it's just, and everybody does that in life, but I think sometimes in medicine, we really don't have those choices open to us. But yeah, so at least you got to see some good hockey.
I did. I was there when the Winnipeg Jets came back to Winnipeg, and it was awesome.
Yeah. Good
All
times.
right, let's talk about why orthopedic and why aesthetics. Like what brought you guys into those worlds?
So, full disclosure, my dad is an orthopedic surgeon. So I actually went into medicine saying I was going to do anything other than orthopedic surgery.
The opposite.
Not that my dad wasn't a great dad. It was just I was a very independent young female with wanting to make my own way, right? Like I don't need anybody else's opinions about what I do. So I did go in thinking that I wanted to do surgery, but not orthopedics. And so it was like my 3rd year of medical school, and that's traditionally when you decide what you're going to do. You have to pick, especially if you're doing something competitive. If it's something less competitive, you can maybe wait, but when you want to do one of the surgical subspecialties, it's kind of pertinent. Time is of the essence. So I did this urology rotation, and I followed this girl, and she was she was a great urologist, but she was just totally unhappy. And then I felt like I had done all the other surgical subspecialties, and for one reason or another, they weren't for me. And so somebody, was it you, told me to try ophthalmology. I actually think it was Kasdan. And I did this ophthalmology rotation, and I had never been more miserable.
Really?
I don't even like touching my own eyes. So, on this thing.
Looking into somebody's soul.
It's that slit lamp, flipping it back and forth. I could never see the retina. And so,
what is this?
it was no nebula. So I went to...
Your eyes look fine, but there's a darkness inside you that I can't explain.
I can't figure out how this lens works. So I actually looked at the fellow that day, and I bet, by the way, I had the total badass ophthalmologist. Like, if there was a cool ophthalmologist, this was her.
Yeah.
She was in Israeli Special Forces before she became a retina surgeon. I mean, she was so cool, and I still was miserable. So I told the fellow that I had a meeting with the dean, And I did not, and I just left, and I went to the dean's office, and I said I need to meet with Dr. Gansel, like right now.
out of there.
And so the only elective open was orthopedics. And I worked until like 10 o'clock every night, and we had so much fun, and it was so great, and we were just fixing femur fractures and nailing tibias, and I just never looked back. I called my mom. I remember calling her in the middle of the night, like driving home, because you have to get through, when you're at the University of Louisville, where we lived, you had to kind of go through a tough area. So I would usually call her on my way home, or her, my dad, and I just remember calling her, and I was like, I'm having so much fun. And she was like, great. It's like 10 o'clock at night. Just, are you home yet? And I never looked back. I applied for orthopedics and matched at a really wonderful program. I had great mentors, and I'm super thankful.
Was urology just too many wieners? Or what was
It wasn't that. Actually,
You were fine with that.
Actually, the
amount-
problem
You just
with
took that question so serious.
The old men wieners were, she was fine with that.
that's actually not the
You were
problem.
very
The problem
comfortable with the
is-
amount of wieners, to be clear.
Just to
It
be
wasn't
clear.
that.
Actually, she's going to tell you that she would have been fine if she got to see more wieners. The problem with women doing urology is that they don't get to see as many wieners, and they have to do all of the female stuff.
Yeah, so I shadowed this
Yeah.
woman. Her name was Rebecca. She was great. She's a urologist. She's the only woman in a huge practice in Cincinnati. I went up there and I would spend my free time
Yeah.
trying to figure out what I wanted to do, doing all this crazy stuff, taking call overnight with the trauma surgeons. And I went up there, and I think I had a week off or something, and I spent it doing urology with her. And her biggest complaint to me was that she treated men for 5 years as a resident, and when she got into practice, her partners sent all their female patients to her. And so she didn't get to do all the big stuff that she was doing in residency. You know, she wasn't doing nephrectomies, and she wasn't doing all that really cool stuff. Not
Cool
that the other
wieners.
stuff isn't important. Well, kidneys too. Kidneys. Don't forget about the kidneys. Very important organ. But she was just doing bladder slings all day, and you know that wasn't kind of what I wanted. So
Smart.
at least not then.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. And how about aesthetics?
So similar but different. Her dad was a general orthopedist. I just had a Jewish mother, so my medical fate was pretty much sealed with that one. Doing anything else would have been utter failure. I did general surgery just because I didn't even know that plastic surgery existed at that time. This is 2000, and so went into medical school. Went through medical school just saying, okay, I'll just be a general surgeon. Maybe I'll do a trauma surgery. That sounds cool, right? You know,
You were a great trauma surgeon.
I was a good trauma surgeon during general surgery, and realized, ooh, this is definitely not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And God bless those guys that do it, and women that do it. We certainly need them. But when I was going through my training, general surgeons were just, quite honest, they were pretty miserable. And I'm talking about the people that were in practice. You know, as residents, you worked really, really long hours, but we were in New York City. We had a bunch of us together. It was a little bit masochistic, but it was great. You know, you just did the hours, you worked hard, and everybody else was doing the same thing, and it was great. But about second or third year, you did a quick 1 month rotation in plastic surgery, and I just remember doing that rotation with some of those guys, and it was just amazing. I was like, oh, okay, they kind of think like me, they act like me, they kind of operate like me. So you start to see kind of who your mentors are going in. And in our field, like y'all's, it's all about mentorship, right? You know, mentorship is not talked about very often, but that really is the entire key to what we do. If I'm operating, I have 2 or 3 voices that are constantly still 15 years into practice, still in my head. Those mentors that are saying, okay, be careful of this, watch this. This is what you need to accomplish. And I think that's true for most surgeons, at least, is that we have those 2 or 3 people that are always in our heads. And so then when I got to plastic surgery, we did plastic surgery. I had a great aesthetic experience during my general plastics, and thought, okay, well, if I want to do aesthetics, I need to just make sure that I'm, as capable as possible. So then when I applied to a couple different aesthetic fellowships, I was fortunate enough to get what we call the Meath Fellowship back in New York City with Sherelle Aston and Dan Baker and Alan Matarazzo, and said, well, this is too good to pass up.
Yeah.
And no matter what, it'll take a while to build up that part of the practice, but at least I'll always have those tools in the toolbox to bring out. And that's just, my practice kind of evolved that way. It was really not, it wasn't something that I was thinking. I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to go aesthetics, because that's not really my personality. I mean, if I go to an aesthetics meeting, you know, I mean, there are a lot nicer suits on than I'm wearing,
Very
and
fancy shoes.
a lot of fancy shoes, and guys that look a lot better. They're a lot better looking than I am. You know, you look at me, you're not thinking, oh, aesthetics, right? But I tell people I care more about your aesthetics than my own aesthetics, and that's probably more important. So I just kind of gravitated that way, and obviously, you know, the more you enjoy something, the more you trained in something, you feel like, okay, I'm pretty good at these things. And that's how the practice started to go when I was at the medical center. It was a very bizarre practice, right? I was in the middle of a medical center starting to grow an aesthetic practice. That's not a typical thing. And so that was also part of, you know, one of the reasons, like, okay, am I going to stay with the medical center, or am I going to kind of branch out on my own, et cetera? And so it was just kind of the way the practice evolved. It kind of almost made the decision for me. And so then, you know, it's just like anything else. It's a service industry type of practice, right? People are paying you money to get a particular result. And if they like the result, if they like their experience, they're going to tell their friends, they're going to tell their family. And pretty soon you start to look at your schedule, and it starts to fill up and blend. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And you're talking about like your own aesthetics, but fitness, it seems like, is a really big thing for you guys, which is one of the things that I really liked about you. And I remember Ashley Elsie telling me about you. She's like, oh, you got to meet Michelle. She's so cool. She's smart, and she works out all the time. And like, she takes care of her own health as well as helping other people, which has been one of my biggest frustrations in the medical world, is people who don't take care of themselves, but then are kind of entrusted to help other people get healthy. So can you speak to that a little bit, what it's like being in the work a ton, but then trying to take care of yourself too?
Well, what's your workout, Reggie?
It was a lot easier before I had a 3-year-old. And so that has changed things. I used to just, you know, get up, work out before work. It was very easy. You know, you could go 5:30, 5:45, be done, out office by 8, boom, done for the day.
Bang, bong.
But I do the morning shift, so I'm a morning person just by nature. And so that has always been super important for me to keep. So after I had my first and only child, we had to change some things about my schedule so I could accommodate that, because, you know, I don't want to be working out at 6 o'clock when he's eating dinner and going to bed.
Right.
You know, and so I don't want to be finishing super late. So I, you know, kind of lengthened my morning hours into lunch, shortened that. Then, you know, basically I lift weights 3 days a week with Laura Jones over at Baseline Fitness.
Yeah.
Shout out to Matt. And then the other days I try to do something else. We go, we actually met some of our best friends in town actually at Pilates.
Yeah.
At the RIP, the Pilates studio on Divine Street. It's now, what is it?
Pilates Sculpt now, but then and Gary Davis, who has his own place, moved his Pilates studio out to the lake. So everybody's doing great work out there and helping us inflexible folks become more flexible.
So you guys are doing Pilates together?
Well, we were initially on Saturdays. When we were long distance, we would actually just do it together in the mornings if I was in town.
I thought you meant on the phone or Zoom.
No, that's
a good idea, though. It's a good idea.
No, when I would come into town, we would go, and that's how I met some of our very good friends here, because they would do like a small group class on Saturday mornings. But now I try to go, if I can, on Thursdays after my OR day, especially if I have a lot of cases, because I'm looking down so much. And I just find, you know, for my neck and my posture and stuff like that, I wear, you know, somewhere between 2.5 and 3.5 power loops and a headlamp all day. Yeah. So looking down into tiny holes is not exactly the best thing for your neck, and you do a similar thing, so you're going probably even more frequently than me.
Yeah. Now she goes to Baseline. My home base is the Old Man YMCA.
No
downtown.
way!
Yeah,
I love that you're doing that.
I didn't expect that.
Once you get to a certain age, they really welcome you with open arms. You know, it's not like the old, Main Street, where you go. It's like the only place like in Columbia that still had like a Turkish bath type setting. So they've gotten rid of that, which is kind of unfortunate. But so yeah, that's where I go. Feel a little bit better about myself when I walk in there, and but it's been great. And again, doing Pilates, I'm not very naturally flexible, so doing Pilates has been super, super helpful for me. Because if I go to a yoga class, it's just bad news. I just, the teachers has to be with me the whole class, and it's just like, no, get in this position, stay in this position, and me saying I can, or screaming or crying, and it's kind of a bad scene.
You are not the only physician at the downtown YMCA.
No.
Kingery,
That's where all of the old man physicians go. Yeah, we hang out. It's just it's kind of social hour and a little bit of light cardio. We make it work for ourselves. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like you would love the JCC too.
Too far.
It's too far for you.
Yeah, it's too far.
Did you hear that? It's too far.
It's too far. Yeah,
Sounds like his dad.
Yeah, I've already turned to my dad or Larry David. It's too far. But the funny thing about the JCC is when I was growing up here, I played, believe it or not, I played a little bit of basketball, and we would play at the JCC, aka the Shalom Dome. It was fantastic, by the way. Dare I say,
Shalom Dome.
Quite the home court advantage at the Shalom Dome. It was good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what I'm picking up on, which is interesting. I feel like ortho is like, and I don't know how to say it the right way. It's like grotesque, barbaric, maybe. Like you're hammering things sometimes, right? You're drilling things.
Correct.
And then we got plastics. Got to be real, like
Tink, tink,
dainty and like.
That's what happens when he does it. That's when he does a rhinoplasty. It's like tink, tink.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes. So the answer is yes. I commiserate with. We have another couple friend. They're in Tucson. Guy that I trained with in Louisville. He's a plastic surgeon. She is an orthopedist. So me and him commiserate because we're doing the dainty stuff, right? And
she's in there.
Our
hammering.
wives are doing like real hardcore.
Being
surgery.
upper extremity,
That's
I
right.
don't swing as many mallets anymore.
Yeah.
My mallet
You know how
size
to.
decreased
Yeah.
significantly.
Yeah.
When did you know you liked that? Like, just that's out of curiosity, because I've seen some of those videos where, like, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize they do that when.
Well, I think when you're a medical student, everything is super, just like the lights are bright, everything is amazing, and it's like the crazier, the better, depending on what you're drawn to, right?
Right.
There are some really smart people who go into dermatology, and they, their lives are just the same for the most part. They have like normal standard hours, and there's like 2 dermatologic emergencies that exist in all of the world.
Yeah.
But then there are people like me and Todd who are procedurally based and had these mindsets that were, somewhat masochistic, for better sense of the word. And so those things are very attractive. And, orthopedics was so rewarding because it was like some of those things are so wild, and to make those people better, I had a 15-year-old when I was a resident that got ran over by an earth mover. Oh, I don't know if you've ever seen. Was in the emergency room in the middle of the night looking up what an earth mover is. He like hijacked it and jumped it somehow, and then like fell out. I don't know. And I mean, he had this horrible open leg injury, needed flaps and X fixes and stuff. And this is just some kid.
Yeah.
Although he was built like a man, so he was at our adult hospital, and he came out with a leg, it's not perfect, right? But that kid is ambulating independently without the use of an assistive device the last I saw him. So we were doing some really great stuff for people and getting them back into what you guys really value, which is quality of life. We can't always make it perfect, but a lot of times we can make it better. And then I liked hand surgery because it was the pace of oftentimes the surgeries, unless they're really, really long, they're usually shorter. You do more in a day. I liked the hand because it has a lot of different challenges. It's not
Sure.
While total joints is extraordinarily challenging, if you do just regular outpatient primary total joints,
Right.
it's a lot of the same surgery over and over again. And so I have a little bit more variety.
Is there anything that you don't want your children to do or that you won't do because of the things that you've
Medicine.
seen?
No,
That was the wrong answer.
that's a quick answer. I don't know. I'll
Because-
let you
well,
take
so
it.
for me-
I was a pretty active kid, and I don't know how I managed to get out of childhood without any real
Broken,
orthopedic
yeah.
injuries. But I do worry about that. Monkey bars, trampoline parks,
Yeah.
I talked to Kristen Nathie, is a friend of mine who's a pediatric orthopedic surgeon downtown at Prisma. Well, yeah, it's Prisma, not Ridgeland anymore. And I actually asked her the other day when we got our first trampoline park invitation. I was like, "Are you letting your kids go? Do they go?"
Yeah.
And she was like, "I don't like to be there."
Just seeing trauma.
She's like, "I just don't like if they go. I don't like to have to be there for it. I just can't watch."
It's like, horseback riding is like that for me, where I just feel like half the people I see have some sort of injury from horseback riding.
Yeah.
And I just think like my kids don't get on there. And then there's people who do it without a helmet on, which is even crazier to me. Tom thinks that's normal.
He loves
but
helmets, though.
I love helmets.
Loves
Yeah.
helmets.
It's all perspective, right? So it's based
what
on
you see.
what you see.
Yeah, because I
right?
grew up
It's-
riding horses, and so I'm all about. I love horseback riding.
That's right. But you must not see people coming in all the
No,
time.
no,
because
no.
they-
Lots of humeral shaft fractures. I don't
Is
know
there?
why that
Oh.
was like that's always the break of choice I
Yeah.
saw from those. But yeah, I mean, it certainly can be just as dangerous as trampoline parks.
Is there anything we
Monkey
wouldn't think
bars.
of, like bowling or
Avocado cutting. Thanksgiving is a very busy time for hand surgeons.
Yeah.
Burns, childhood burns, I think, are probably what scare me a lot because everybody has a stove and there's just, at some point in time, your kid's going to be touch a hot something, and it's really hard. It's really hard to keep those little hands. They're so fast. So it just has to be constantly aware. And so childhood burns, I think. What about you?
Depending on the dog.
Oh yeah, you got a
Dog
dog
breeds.
thing.
I mean, we could talk about dog bites all day, right? And some people are very adamant it's not the breed. Let me tell you,
It's the breed.
it's the
That's-
breed.
yes.
Okay, so that's a good part of it. But I think those were some of the more difficult. I think personally, professionally difficult cases for me is to see, young kids especially come in essentially, lips gone. Noses gone. And you just, it was a split second, right? And it may have been no one's fault. It's just one of those things where it's really, really difficult. And then again, you're trying to improve them, but you're never going to get them back to baseline.
Right.
And so that's going to be something that they're going to have to, deal with for the rest of their life. Not to mention, either the dog owners, the parents, whoever, because they carry that guilt with them as well. And you see that when they hit the emergency room. And I haven't done this work in quite some time, but I certainly did my fair share of it over the years. And so to see the emotional kind of instability that is happening amongst all of the family members. And then if you add in, the neighbor's dog and the neighbors are there as well. And you just start to see this downward spiral of relationships and emotions. It's pretty difficult, not to mention just the actual injury itself. So those were tough.
I'm glad that you said that because
Yeah.
I've been saying that for a long time. That
Yeah.
you can there's certain dogs that are predisposed for violence.
Period.
Like
End of story.
You're not having people aren't coming in because their golden retriever tore their kid's face off.
That's right. Correct. That
Ever.
is correct.
No matter how that golden retriever is raised, they're not tearing kids' face
That
off.
is correct. That is exactly correct. Yeah. So it's just, those are bad injuries sometimes, and some people get away with, not too bad of injuries, but for the most part, if they're coming into the hospital and it was unexpected and it was an actual, what I would consider a trauma bite or an attack bite, it typically is not going to end well for whoever was on the receiving.
Yeah.
end of that.
What percent was pit bull, German Shepherd, Doberman, Rottweiler?
He's going to blow your mind.
So Chihuahuas.
What?
Yeah.
I thought it was dachshunds.
Well, Chihuahuas are probably second. Dachshunds are number one.
What?
Actually, yeah. So what
Wiener
happens?
dogs.
Yeah. So what happens is the kids.
My mind is blown. You're
get,
right.
Kids get down on their level, and they're just
Face to
playing,
face.
and they're face to face, and
I don't know if they're number one for all bites, but you felt like
I felt like that was
Pediatric facial
for
bites.
pediatric
Yeah.
facial bites. That was probably the worst. Overall, it's not even close. It is a pit bull mix. I don't care what you want to combine
I still
the
take care
pit
of
bulls with. You can combine them with the best,
Yeah.
most docile breed in the world. It doesn't matter. The pit bulls are always gonna reign supreme.
apologies
So-
to the pit bull
yeah.
community.
Yeah, sorry. But
I
that is
realize that
that's
some
the
of them
truth.
are sweet baby angels and some of them are your sweet baby angels, but some of them are not. Some of them those patients become our patients.
Yeah. So
My patients still.
yeah, but I would say Chihuahuas, Dachshunds, and pit bulls.
bulls.
Yeah, but for different reasons.
Chihuahua
So
shocks me.
Yeah.
I knew they were mean, but I didn't know they would be that.
Probably
Can they
not.
do
She's
that
probably
much
right. Probably
damage?
not. Just and this is all anecdotal, but not as bad as the Dachshunds. But those two would again. It's just and they'd get lips and noses, right? Because it's the most prominent feature of the face, and you got a 7-year-old or 8-year-old or 10-year-old. Or younger, just down at their level, and they're playing and they're getting the dog riled up, and before you know it, lip is in a bag.
So
or-
what are you attaching if they have it, do you put that back on, or where are you getting parts?
So one time, I just literally they brought like the lip and the piece in a bag, and you put it on kind of what we'd consider as a graft, because there's no vessels to reconnect. So you just kind of put it on as a graft. She ended up doing really, really well, but it was pure luck. And they did a great job of securing the part and so forth. If it's just hanging on, those are easier. We can usually salvage those.
Yeah.
Much better. I don't care if it's just flapping in the wind. That's fine. We can usually deal
Yeah.
with that a little bit easier. But if they come in a bag, it's a little bit harder. And that goes for like fingers and hands and so forth.
Yeah.
That's her. That was
Should
her.
you say? I always wonder that. Should you save it? Like if I lop
Yes.
off a finger,
Oh,
save
yeah.
it.
For
So
sure.
yeah, we
Get
don't
it on
do,
ice.
Yeah.
We
for
don't
sure.
do replants, and I don't think they do them at Prisma either, but I could be wrong. But most of them go to Augusta. But yeah, you're supposed to put it in wrap it in a moist piece of
Moist towelette.
Yeah, moist towelette, paper towel, something like that. And then you put that in a plastic bag, and then you get a water ice bath and another
yeah.
plastic bag, and you put that in there,
Okay.
and then you take it with you on your ambulance ride.
Just go.
Yeah. Lots of survival skills learning today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Talking
good.
about a lot of stuff that we don't do anymore.
Yeah.
Well, in the hockey world, because we all get our teeth knocked out,
Yeah.
you're supposed to spray it off and put it back in, or they used to say put it in milk. And now I'm being told you're better off to just keep it in your mouth for as long as possible.
So you
until
just stick it
get
right
there.
back in yourself.
If you
I
swallow
had
it.
when I got my front one knocked out, I had to stop. We had to stop the game. I had to search the ice to find it. And then a guy on my team was a medical doctor, and he's like, "We got to wipe it off first." So we just wiped it off and jammed it right back up there to try and save it. But then that was in Canada, so they were like, "Well," I was like, "Where do I go?" And they're like, "Well, there's
We'll see you in 3
no
months."
dentist open right now." And then they were like, "You can go to the hospital," and the hospital there, of course, is like a 18-hour wait. And I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to sit there for 18 hours with holding this tooth in my mouth." So I just abandoned it and got a bridge.
He had a flipper for a while that was hilarious because sometimes he would laugh so hard it would just fly out.
That is true. And my wife was super into it because it was like in Canada, it's kind of a badge of honor to have your teeth knocked out.
Yeah.
And everybody just pulls their flipper in and out.
Yeah.
But when I got to South Carolina,
Not as
if you're
cool.
missing your teeth, you're on
Not as
meth
cool.
or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. I was going to say. I was like, yeah, you coming from Gaston or something.
So I ended up getting a bridge.
It looks good.
Thanks.
Looks good.
All right. So what are the most common surgeries or cases that you guys are working on? Like what comes in the most?
So mostly I do a lot of peripheral nerves, so carpal tunnel, cubital tunnel, trigger finger, arthritis, a lot of basilar thumb arthritis.
Just whacking off like the piece of like the arthritic?
Well,
do you-
usually, we'll treat them conservatively at first. A lot of people respond super well to injections and bracing and activity modifications. But if they don't, you do a trapeziectomy. So take out the trapezium. And after you do that, there's about 10 different ways to fill the space to prevent this thumb metacarpal from subluxing.
Yeah.
Literature shows that they all work about the same. And in Europe, they don't even do anything else. They just take the trapezium
Whack
and let
it.
them fly. But in the United States, we generally all stabilize the metacarpal somehow, some way, depending on the patient and their preferences. And that's really great surgery. Fracture work, I don't know. I think I have a carpal tunnel trigger finger revision of somebody's trigger finger, or revision carpal tunnel from like before I was in medicine in practice. Some person who's already had one done once, so they just need a repeat probably for scarring.
Yeah.
So it's a slightly bigger procedure. And then I have a metacarpal fracture from a fisticuffs injury.
Fisticuffs, little fighting.
Yeah.
Pugilistic.
Peter Stern used to make us start some Tuesday morning conferences by saying as many words we could think of for the word altercation, as many synonyms as possible. We used to have to go around the room.
Pugilist was always my favorite.
There's a lot of that in a kerfuffle is my favorite.
Kerfuffle.
There's a lot of that in orthopedics, a lot of kerfuffles.
So I know fallen outstretched hand is we always call it the scaphoid. In
Scaphoid,
Canada,
yeah.
they call it a scaphoid. Or is it
Scaphoid
scaphoid
here.
pronounced? Yeah. And then what's the other ones? If you're punching someone, what's the main
Boxer's
ones?
fracture.
Okay.
Good boxer's fracture. This person has a sort of boxer's fracture variant. But yeah, that's where you usually break your knuckle right here. Interesting enough, good boxers don't actually get boxer's fractures because they don't punch with that side of their hand.
So someone gets in a fight and the person who got hit goes and sees you, and then the person who punched them comes and sees you. You're like, hey, this funny accident.
We're
this funny
full
fight.
service. We're full service. Yes.
Do you guys use the laser all over at Lexington? Like the class 4 laser for cases like that? Like even...
Not a lot in orthopedics. So there's doing some endo tunnels. So like some people are doing some ultrasound guided carpal tunnels and stuff like that. We do not have that. You have a laser, but it's
Very different. Very different.
an aesthetic laser.
Yeah.
Very different. Yeah, in my practice, I guess my practice has grown. I do probably 60 to 65% facial aesthetics.
really?
So facelifts, neck lifts, rhinoplasties or nose jobs.
Yeah.
And then about 40 to 45% breast. So
Nice.
I'll still do maybe 2 to 3 tummy tucks a month.
Here and there.
But it is significantly skewed towards face and breast. And so that's my normal week. And I think probably just because of my interest in face, because of my fellowship, I think probably more people seek me out for facial aesthetics. And that's what I really love it. I like breast a lot, and that's a big part of my practice.
We're going to clip that.
You can clip that, professionally speaking. But yeah, mostly facial aesthetics with facelifts, neck lifts, and things like that.
When you're doing facial stuff, where do you go in? Or does it matter? Like it changes?
Yeah, so there's a couple different kind of thoughts on this. So number one, the incisions really haven't changed over many years. What has changed is what is being lifted. And so my preferred technique is something called an extended deep plane facelift, which we've done for about 6-7 years now. And that is where you're lifting kind of the deeper tissues that have fallen over the years, right? So we can start talking about, okay, what makes a terrible facelift, right?
Yeah.
What makes it look overdone?
Yep.
Usually there's 2 reasons. I tell my patients there's 2 reasons that facelifts look bad. Or, you walk into a restaurant, look across the room, and you're like, she has something done, right? Number one is based on what they used to do, or what some people, they still do it, is where they just kind of lift the skin, pull back the skin, and hope for the best, right? You get a lot of tension on the skin. You got poor scars. You get classic is where you see kind of that shiny skin.
Yes.
Not to
I hate
put anybody out there, but it's an interesting game you can always play if you go to a restaurant here in Columbia. But look for like that shiny skin kind of towards the ear. but yet still like what we would consider the mid face and the lower face around the middle part of your cheeks and the jowls still falls, right? So that's like a telltale sign. So the idea now is by doing a deep plane is you go in and you lift that deeper tissue that really has fallen, and you're really making that kind of keep the lifted appearance lifted, so to speak. And so I tell people it's really a contouring and repositioning surgery, right? It's not a skin surgery. We'll take out a little bit of skin, but that's not the primary driver of the result. The primary driver are the deeper tissues that are getting lifted. And I tell people, we don't want to lift them to a place they've never been before, right? Because that's the other way to get something that looks really unnatural, right? So you're trying to lift that tissue back to where it once was on you, right? So that's what makes each of these surgeries so personalized, is because everybody's tissue falls a little bit differently. And you see, you start getting onto Instagram or whatnot, and the problem is that you've got all of these terms out there. A lot of them are just terms that surgeons make up for marketing purposes or whatnot. And it's very confusing. It's extraordinarily confusing. And so to be able to kind of go through that with patients and say, okay, this is why you may have heard this, but it doesn't quite work for you, or this is actually not a technique. It's just simply a marketing ploy. It's a marketing term. And then people are usually like, okay, well, that makes a little bit more sense. And then the second way that people have had something done is, what I consider transitions of the face, right? You've got the upper face, like the brow and the forehead. You've got the mid face, which is considered kind of the upper cheeks, and then the lower face, which is the lower cheeks or the jowls, and then the neck. One way to really get kind of an odd result is to not treat one of those areas. So you've got an untreated area, and then you've got treated areas. So you've got this unnatural transition between these areas, and people are usually not able to, you're not going to be like, oh, I see, you didn't get your brow done, but you got your mid-face done. People are, they're not going to know that, but they're going to look at you and say, there's just something not quite right.
You have an old neck and a new face.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is, right? Yeah, 45-year-old neck, 65-year-old face. There you go. And so that's what you're trying to avoid, obviously, with that is to try to keep a natural look. And a lot of people mistakenly think, they come in and say, I want very conservative, very conservative. Well, one way to make something not look conservative is to sometimes be conservative, right? Because if you don't treat something appropriately, right, you're going to get kind of a half-ass result. Yeah. And so, but that's all part of the educational process. And that was also part of my own learning process, right? You these things you learn, unfortunately, yourself of, okay, that didn't quite work out. Let me revisit this.
They come back for the reveal.
And that's where the experience comes in. You say, okay, that's, part of these are hard lessons you've learned. And you're like, oh man, okay, I got to do something different next time. So that is a large part of my practice. And then breast, there's a lot of revision work because especially with implants, right? Implants they're man-made devices, not lifetime devices. Your body changes over time, right? Your breasts aren't going to at
freshen
55. Well, plus people want them in, people want them out.
Yeah. So and so life changes, life goes on. And so revision breast is a big part of my practice as well.
Is there a proper breast hang? Like aesthetically, do you have a number or a measurement where you're like, I want the breast should hang this much?
The answer was, it used to be yes. And we still use some measurements, but more as a guide instead of an absolute, right? So they used to do, let's say, breast reduction. Very common procedure. Patients love that procedure. And you guys probably have dealt with that a lot, right? You got patients that
feel so much better.
I mean, their thoracic spine's killing them, their upper neck is killing them, and a lot of it is just the weight and the droop that their breasts have, right? And so the droop is a huge deal. If you change that center of gravity for somebody, if the way I described it is, if you're taking 2 grocery bags and you have them just all the way down, if they're hanging all the way down, you could take those same 2 grocery bags, and if you hold them up and change that center of gravity, that changes everything. Well, think about that with your breast that you're having to live with 24 hours a day. So it used to be, you use this number, and it used to be this 21 centimeters from what we call the sternal notch to nipple distance. 21, come hell or
Notch
high
to
water.
nipple.
We
Every
don't care,
patient.
notch to nipple. We should all follow that
I
rule,
love
right?
that.
Doesn't matter
I'm going
who
to
you
measure
were.
mine later for sure.
If you're 18, it's just weird. But, and everybody would just follow that to a T.
Right.
Doesn't matter. You come in, you're
Right.
5'2" or 6 foot, you'd follow that rule.
No kidding.
But now, we obviously use it as a guide, but really you want to, you're trying to personalize all of these kind of procedures for folks based on what they want, right? And there's so many options out there today with implant styles. And we're not just talking about implants, but, for the most part, somebody, they may want to look fairly augmented.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you got to talk to them about that. Or if they say
They want that? Like
Some
they
of it's
want to
cultural.
look.
yeah,
Really?
absolutely. Yeah.
You go to South America, the look is different than what
Yeah.
people want here.
Or even Southern California, right?
Sure.
I mean, so everything is a little bit different. So you're trying to, and that's probably the hardest thing as a surgeon in my,
What
my
style
space
breast?
is trying to guesstimate to some extent what this person is
Yeah.
looking to achieve, right?
You like
So
then when they bring in photos then, or you probably have like a booklet of like
both
different. Okay.
both.
Yep.
So that we have tons that they can look at, but I also ask people when you come in, show me some examples of what you like.
Yeah.
Also show me some examples of what you
Don't.
like, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully they're not choosing all my examples of what they don't like, right? I guess they wouldn't
booklet
be
you
sitting in my
handed me.
office, but that's always a little bit of concern. You're like, well, I see you've chosen a bunch of my photos as those that you don't like,
And then sternal space, like the gap here.
Yeah.
Is there a
So-
number that's like that also is different? Because I've seen some wide gaps that are just
Everybody's different, and so that's probably one of the biggest things that people come into is the lady says, I do not want my breast to look too wide, right?
Yeah.
And so the first thing that we're doing is looking where what I could call the medial breast takeoff. What that means is the inner portion of your breast, how naturally close or not close
You want
do
it.
they sit,
Yeah.
right? Because what happens is, let's say if they're naturally close together and you put an implant in, the implant's going to simply just augment what you already have,
Yeah.
right? However, if they're naturally wide, you have a limitation to how far you can put those implants
Yeah.
in, because if you release too much tissue,
whole
then what
thing.
happens is the implant moves in and you can feel and see the
like a
implant.
uniboob.
The uniboob is the most extreme version of that, right?
That'd
So
be
that's
tough.
that's
That's a tough
one. That's a tough one. Luckily, we don't see that
Okay.
that often. And then going under the muscle kind of helps with that because you only release some of the muscle slips. But if you go too much, really what you do is you're violating the natural breast anatomy, and then all of a sudden the edge of the implant can be seen, can be felt. So I mean that's a huge discussion point with patients is if I've got somebody that's naturally wide and they want like this intense cleavage, not going to happen. Not going to happen. Or I mean, somebody else might try to give it to them, but I tell them, hey, listen, this is probably what's going to happen if they do that. So these are all, right. Everything in my world is subjective. It's all expectations.
Do you ever have any clients that want like an opinion of a group of guys? Like where just like a phone a
Are you
friend.
volunteering or something?
I'm trying to create a panel. Were you Hey, I got a group of guys
Have you
here
met
that
my
are gonna,
special friends, Randy and Tom? They'll be coming in to help discuss the
Why are these
consultation.
guys on Zoom right now watching? They're just here to critique, give advice.
I want to make sure you make the best decision for yourself.
Believe it or not, no, they have not asked for
happened?
that.
Really?
No,
I
it's
could see that being
surprising.
popular.
You know what? I could too in some alternate universe, but
You
it
throw a
hadn't
little
happened yet.
checkbox on there.
Yeah, I'll just-
Check all that apply.
Listen, let me give it some thought, okay? And then I'm going to ask them at the end, what was the creep factor? 0 to 10. How did that rank out for us?
I'll throw the glasses on. We'll be real professional.
Real professional, yeah.
We're just arguing in the background over it.
It's like, no, that's 4 centimeters off. All right. Do you do any of the mommy makeover? Like kind of full, is that a package?
Yes, it's we consider it a package. So if patients, mommy makeover, just kind of to clarify,
Yeah, tell us everything about
all
it,
it really means is you're doing tummy work and breast work at the same time.
Any vaginal work?
Not for me.
Oh, okay.
No, mine's great, thanks. But I don't do any of that work anymore. I
don't think you ever did.
No, I
in
didn't.
practice.
I didn't. That's
Okay.
not my thing. Plenty of other people I can
That will
send
do
you
that.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yep.
But no, it's just any tummy work and breast work, and that breast work could be from implants alone to a lift alone to implants plus a lift plus a tummy tuck. So it's just any kind of combination. It was a guy, actually, it got coined by a surgeon many, many years ago out in LA. He's the one that coined it. It was a marketing term. Yeah, it was just strictly a marketing term. And it kind of took on a life of its own. But really that's what it means. It's just breast work and tummy work combined in the same setting. Yeah. So in my practice, I do that just because a lot of people are coming to me for breast stuff, and as I said, I do 2 or 3 tummies a month, so we'll do that kind of in combination for them.
And what about, I'm curious about the rhinoplasty, because I was told that you can look at a belly button and tell if it was done in South Beach or if it was done in California, and I'm curious if the rhinoplasty world is kind of like that.
Not anymore. It used to be. In fact, actually, when I was in New York City, there was a guy on Long Island that did like every super sweet 16 girl out on Long Island, right? And they called it the Goldman tip. Okay. To this day, I don't know exactly what that means, but everybody would say that's the Goldman tip. And what it basically means is he would do the exact same procedure for everyone, right? And I think over the last 20 years, there's been such a push for personalization that has sort of gone away. So you can't really, especially with rhinoplasty, I think there's a couple surgeries that I think we've just made really, really good progress in. One is rhinoplasty, and two, I think, is face and neck lifting, where you can compare results that we're getting nowadays to what was 15, 20 years ago, and they're just night and day difference. Whereas a breast dog, quite honestly, is a breast dog. And I'll see women in my office that had breast dog 30 years ago, and they look great. They did great. They look great, and we probably are not doing a whole lot different for them today than was done 30 years ago. The implants have improved.
Right.
The actual devices have gotten significantly better, but the technique, by and large, there's some, there is some differences, but by and large has really kind of been fairly standardized. But for rhinoplasty and facelifts and neck lifts, if somebody from 30 years ago walked into my operating room today, they'd be like, what are you doing? Because the techniques have, I think, evolved so much. It used to be like that, and that was just one example of it. But I think it's much less these days.
Yeah. And can people often breathe better after it too? Like if they come in with, say they had their nose broken a whole bunch, I would imagine things being straightened out helps.
It depends. So typically the broken nose typically doesn't lead to airway issues because of the
outing so many people right now.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying. Like because
that's what I've heard. I've had many people say like, "Oh, I had to get my sinuses fixed," so they just worked on my nose.
So I think it depends on where that breathing issues are coming from, right? So if it's coming from the sinuses, that's going to be a completely different thing. I could do anything I want to your nose. This is not going to affect your sinuses. You're still not going to breathe very well, right? The nose broken kind of thing is where people come in and say, "Oh, I was in a wreck 10 years ago, and I just felt like I couldn't breathe much better after that." And there's maybe something to be said with that. But for the nasal bones themselves, unless they are, impacting the airway severely, the airflow really doesn't hit that. It's actually much further down than that. Where you get into that sometimes is the middle portion of your nose, what we call the septum, right? And that's how ENTs, that's one of their major surgeries is septoplasties, where they take the middle portion of your nose, plus maybe what we call turbinates, which are kind of outpouchings of the nose, and maybe some bone in the back. That does impact the airway a lot. But for a truly cosmetic rhinoplasty, if somebody comes in to me and says, "I've got some breathing problems," then I will tell them that there's a chance I could be do all of my work and their breathing problems will be the exact
Yeah.
same, because most of what I'm dealing with, by and large, 95% is not dealing with anything that obstructs or changes the airway flow and resistance.
Yep.
So
Good stuff. All right, I got Michelle. You've been too quiet.
Got it.
My dad says he's getting an ankle replacement. Is that a thing?
Definitely.
And what does that look like? Like, is that?
I mean, I can
know,
pull
like,
a picture up my phone, but so
Is there
ankle
movement?
replacements. I can't remember exactly how old they are, but I remember that I significantly remember during my foot and ankle surgery rotation, which was probably 2015 ish. They started becoming much more popular.
Yeah.
And it is basically exactly what you think. It's a big incision in the front of the ankle. You access the ankle and you cut out the arthritic joint and you put a replacement on the talar head and the plafond of the tibia. It's a big surgery. It can be a long surgery, but I think for a lot of people with post-traumatic ankle arthritis, it's been a game changer. My partner, Matt Boyer, does them.
Right.
And by and large, patients do well. I think that when you start replacing these joints that have a lot of motion and bear a lot of load, the biomechanics are such that those implants aren't ever perfect, right?
Yeah.
But for people who have really bad arthritis in their ankle, usually post-traumatic from an ankle fracture,
Yeah.
a lot of military people, jumping out of airplanes, get a bad ankle fracture from a weird landing, those kinds of things that they went on to ankle fusions for a long time. And that's pretty limiting.
Right.
If you can't dorsiflex or plantar flex your ankle, then it's difficult to walk. You basically have
Sure.
like a peg leg.
Right.
And so I think they've been game changers. While I don't think that they're still perfect, I think that they do reward a lot of people who get them done, because their quality of life is just really.
Do they last like pretty good, or is it one of those?
I'm probably not as well versed in the
world.
longevity of the ankle replacement, but I do know that they're doing them more frequently now. So
Yeah.
I think the implants have improved significantly. I think the Star was the first one we put in, and now all the companies are making different ones,
Yep.
and the surgeries aren't as long. And as if you go to somebody who does quite a few of them, I think that you can get a pretty good outcome.
Yep. All right. Nice.
Does he like to play golf?
No, he was like kicking propane tanks. Like he owned we had like the little 20 pounders, and he said it's from kicking them his whole life. I was like,
To see
well,
if
why
they
were
were
you
empty.
kicking? I guess I don't know.
what was his answer?
Usually you kick with
No,
like,
I have no like maybe to
Part
move
of the
them. I don't
job?
even know. I don't even know if I listened to the answer, because I was like, why?
Yeah, you were like, why were you kicking?
It doesn't even make sense. Like, that doesn't make sense why your ankle's like that.
So yes, they're a thing. I think that they are probably better even than total elbows are now. Total elbows are really not super durable. So usually we put those people on a 5 to 10 pound lifting restriction for the rest of their life. So
No kidding.
so for people who are laborers, who have bad injuries to their elbow, those are not the best thing often
For replacement.
but more for older, lower demand patients with things like rheumatoid. They do pretty well with elbow replacements, and they do have like I said, they're not lifetime devices, especially depending on when you put them in.
Yep. All right.
If you're in there for 4 hours doing a surgery, what are you jamming out to?
I'm guessing AC/DC for you, Michelle.
It's a pretty good.
I was going to say rock.
Taylor Swift.
So when Todd was a plastic surgery fellow, sometimes I used to go scrub cases, and what was it, Bird or one of the scrub techs? I can't remember which one it was. They write on the wall. He wears size 7 super sensitive gloves, likes to listen to rap music and long walks on the beach.
Yeah. The rap has gone away, but I mean, you're a classic rock person.
I do.
right?
So I typically let the staff pick within reason. I won't do lithium.
Yeah.
I can't handle. One of my partners listens to lithium, and then when I come in later that week, inevitably the Sirius is still on lithium, and I'm like, hey, somebody's got to change the channel right now. But the scrub, I try to keep the staff happy, so it's usually classic rock. I have a particular CRNA who really hates boy bands.
Really?
Yeah, it's like it's sort of pathologic. So I try to turn the boy bands on when he's in the room, just to see him squirm.
That's so nice. It's such a nice boss thing to do, to let your staff
Every time
choose.
every time he's in there, I bring up the boy band.
Yeah.
comment.
It's just like marriage. right?
Yeah.
It's just like marriage.
That is-
I mean, you're with them for hours on end, and so they will typically start it. So I do longer cases. She does kind of usually multiple shorter cases.
Yeah.
So I'll do a longer case, and generally by about the midway point, 3/4 of the way through,
Switch
depending, we got to switch it up.
Yeah.
You went through like wasn't it not girl talk, but who was you were listening to like
EDM stuff,
EDM stuff.
EDM for a little
Really?
while,
Yeah.
and turn off the lights, we get the glow sticks, and rock out. a
All
little
you can
bit.
see is his headlamp.
Yeah, just
DJ rolls in.
Yeah, exactly. Which, by the way, that would be really
That
cool.
would be sick.
I would.
He really does like EDM.
I really do like it. So a little bit of like newer country, which is hit or miss with some of the staff.
Yeah.
They tend to like the older country, so we try to meet in the middle there sometimes.
The cases can be long for the people who are helping you, and
Yeah.
you just want them to be happy. Like, if I do a Dupuytren's, that can take 2 hours, depending on how many fingers I'm doing and how bad it is. And it's,
just standing
I'm
there.
head and is in a little hole, and I just don't want them to fall asleep. We like to keep everybody engaged and happy, and really.
I mean, as a surgeon, you're so focused that
Yeah, I
quite
don't
honestly,
hear it.
you don't
You're
really
just-
hear.
yeah.
I don't hear a lot of it, or it just kind of goes in and out. But if for the staff, they're hearing every second
Yeah.
of it, right? And there's only so many things that you're going to talk about because you're focused on the surgery, you're focused on the patient, you're focused on the things that you need to be focused on. So at the end of the day, at the very least, let's get something on that the staff is happy with.
I'm the opposite, and
Yeah,
my
you're
wife
just
100%. I'm like, I'm in the room doing this, and I have people coming at me. If the rate is too slow, like if the song is too slow,
Right.
I start feeling sluggish. But if it's too fast, I start feeling anxious. So it has to be within this certain beats per minute where I'm in my sweet spot of not feeling rushed by the music, but also not being slowed
I
down.
love
by the
that.
music.
There are
You work
special
to a
people
metronome.
like that.
You
Yeah.
literally work
Literally,
to a metronome.
yes.
He has special needs. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. I love
And the staff hate it, and I just have to say,
Like,
I
I'm
get
sorry.
it.
This is it.
I understand you hate it.
One of my mentors is a very smart, very accomplished pediatric hand surgeon, and I mean he does some like wild stuff, brachial plexus, all kinds of.
Really?
He's operating on babies, and he went through a period where he was listening to Scottish heavy metal. So we're operating on like 2-year-old's neck or something, and we're listening to Scottish heavy metal.
That would be tough. I could see that.
That
I
went
have-
over very well.
I have washed out a hip on a pediatric patient when I was a medical student with somebody in town here, and we listened to like hardcore rap music. It was like midnight,
yeah.
and
Just
he
needed
rolls in, and that's what was on, and I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is appropriate.
But so that's another part of that is you can use it to fit the mood,
Yeah.
right? So like general surgery, trauma night in New York City. I mean, you could throw on anything,
David Guetta.
and it's like it's going to fit the mood, right? If I did that here, it probably it would be a little bit of just wouldn't really jive that well. So
It's like the Scottish heavy metal doesn't fit the 2-year-old.
No.
it doesn't
Nerve
it doesn't.
surgery, but-
and you remember it, right? You
I'll
you
never
definitely
forget it.
that.
I mean, I remember when he pulled the band up, and I got like a whole, IMDb on the
Yeah.
Scottish rockers.
Whole background.
So when you work 94% with men, it sounds like, right?
Yeah,
It's
getting better.
It's
but
good math.
It's getting better.
6% women in the field.
Because I'm generally thinking, and I think a lot about dentists because dentists were just like mean men back when I was growing up. And now they're like my kids go and they love their dentist and she's so sweet and fun and it doesn't really hurt that bad. And I'm like, that was not my experience ever. But I think in the female kind of space that you're breaking into, it like thinking about your staff and what they would want to listen to is fairly new. Right? Is that your experience?
I mean, I think
Randy's
so,
realizing how
probably.
selfish
I'm
he is.
realizing I'm just like, listen, I'm doing this, so I do whatever I want.
So one of my partners, I can't remember. We were talking about who's the rapper that sang the cowboy song that was like a rapper and then he went into country music.
Kid Rock.
It's escaping me at this point.
Anyways,
Oh,
he there was some rapper that was recently like went into rock music. And I guess we were talking about him at lunch, and he was like, I've got some of it on my playlist. And so I think a lot of people have like this very particular playlist that they play, and they think that it makes everyone happy. And if it makes them happy, I do think that's important. I mean, I just can't personally hear it. Like when I'm operating, I hear it when I'm closing.
Yeah.
And when the patient's rolling into the room. And otherwise,
You're just focused.
My brain is focused.
Wow.
And so maybe I hear it. And sometimes I do. If it's like a really great song, I'll sing. But it just depends. And I think that it's probably not a male-female thing. I think it's probably just what I thought would work best for me to garner trust from the staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think that I still think that here in Lexington there aren't that many female surgeons, period.
Right.
Of any subspecialty, really. What was I, the second or third female surgeon at Lexington?
Yeah, something.
And
Wow.
one of the first to have a child while I was there.
No kidding.
Yeah, I don't know if there might have been.
But I would argue that your entire training kind of got you ready for that moment. So to me, the interesting thing is, doing general surgery, especially where I did it, very male dominated, very kind of fraternity-esque. And then I had finished, and then watching her kind of go through a similar thing, what I've always found like completely fascinating, and I didn't know it when I was going through it because I was it, but watching her as a female navigate a very
The men's locker room, essentially.
male-dominated
the things
region.
that
And
I
you
didn't
could-
get away with that he
Right.
got away with.
Right.
which is, you could do literally an entire podcast of just kind of the social norms and I guess what I consider there'd be things that, she might get her wrist slapped for, just whether it was something that she said something or said it a certain way. Whereas I could have said the exact same thing in the exact same way, free pass.
Right.
Total free pass, right? And you don't know it when you're going through it.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at her and I'm like, wait a second, I did that. I did that twice as bad, and no one got on me about it. And I thought it was very interesting just to kind of watch her navigate that world for many years of, being a female in this male-dominated space. But not only that, also navigating her female counterparts, the nursing staff and these other areas that were maybe more female dominated, and she had to keep going back and forth. I found that I think she just did an amazing job. It was exhausting watching me, watch her go through that. But
it's
it was
like watching them give birth.
That's right. I was like, ooh, I'm just glad it's not me, 'cause I couldn't handle it. But it was. I thought that was actually the most interesting part of this entire kind of journey was watching her do that. And again, that's you can use a whole.
You could do a whole thing.
8,000
book about it.
podcasts on that part of
that'd
things.
be super
But it's a really, really kind of cool and interesting way to look at it. And,
There
and I
are-
never knew about it. I was just, as I said, I was like, I would have definitely gotten a free pass, right? And it just, and I think
even
maybe
think
as
about
guys, sometimes I never saw it, but I certainly think that for women, especially in surgery, maybe not quite as much anymore, but when she was going through it, especially when I was going through it, there were just bigger, more, there were just more barriers for women in general that they had to navigate that I just I never appreciated until I saw her.
There's an interesting, the Duke Library has an audio portion of it that's online, and there was a woman named Elizabeth Bullitt, I think is her last name, and she was the first female surgery resident at Duke. She was a neurosurgery resident. And she has they interviewed her through the Duke Oral Library about her experience, and it's really an interesting listen.
Is interesting.
So it's worthwhile putting on, 1.5 speed and listening to your car when you drive if you care to get that perspective. But there are so many women that came before me that had it much harder than I did. And I actually had really overall a fantastic experience at Cincinnati. I got treated for the most part like most of my male counterparts by all of my superiors.
That's great.
Sometimes the other staff at the hospital did not give me as many free passes as perhaps they gave my male counterparts.
Right.
But I really did have a good experience. But I think it's definitely changing. I have a girlfriend who's actually in level 1 trauma center, and she's in Wisconsin, right? Mm-hmm. Last night she did a forearm replant and she did a 4-finger metacarpal replant. I mean, just like right there.
Whoa.
And a compartment syndrome all overnight. She was still operating this morning at 11 o'clock or something when I just texted with her to check on her mental health. So, like I think sometimes there is a long stereotype that women can't do it, but she is out there and she's doing it. So we're doing it, and I think that the general public is appreciating that, and I think that a lot of the fields are coming around to it as well.
Yeah,
but they have to be, right?
Yeah.
I don't
They
know
don't
what
have
the
a
last
choice.
numbers are, but in medical
It's much better
school,
than 6% now, I think.
I think it's. I don't know what the percentage of
It was
acceptance.
50-50, but I think
Not
it's
anymore.
skewed
I
in
think
the
it's-
other direction.
Yeah, I think it's
now.
way more female than
Really?
male now. So I think at the end of the day, you're going to see a lot more balance over the next probably 10 to 15
that's
years
awesome.
in fields that maybe have once been completely male dominated. I think you'll probably see a lot more females getting into those roles. And like Michelle said, no matter who you are, mentorship is everything. For you guys as well. There were so many people ahead of us that did it, that kind of paved the way, and then they spent so much of themselves teaching us, and spending their time, their energy doing those when they really didn't have to. We all think that we're owed that person's time, we're owed that person's knowledge. At the end of the day, we're not owed anything, and for them to do that for us, I mean, I can count. It would take me forever to shout out all of those mentors that spent so much time and energy with me.
Especially now we're on the backside of it, where we're mentors for people, and then you realize wow, the people that poured into you during that, the effort that it takes, it's a lot.
It's very special. So
And the other side of it too, where you're telling these young docs things, and they're like, nope, that's not true. Like, all right, I guess we'll talk about it. Or you say it to them, and they kind of roll their eyes at you, and then you're like, all right, I guess you're going to find it out the hard way, because you're not going to believe me.
It's a lot like parenting, as
Yes.
I'm slowly finding out, like mentoring
yeah.
medical students or young adults is a lot like parenting. Like sometimes you can tell them something and they have to learn it on their own.
at some point, right when you realize maybe your parents weren't as dumb and clueless as you always thought they were, and it's the same thing. I really do. I think it's the same thing. But so I've got the 5th and 6th year plastic surgery residents from USC that rotate with me for their aesthetics. And it's great to see them, to see their knowledge base, but to see them kind of grow from their 5th year to their 6th year, and kind of take that understanding, and just not just even the medical or surgical parts, but just all of the kind of the patient interaction part of it. Because as I said, in my world, 99% of my energy goes to, trying to develop a rapport and understanding their expectations. Right. At this point, I know physically what I can do for them. I know within, when I see a patient, within 10 seconds, I already have a plan in mind. I already know what I can do. I know what I can reasonably get them. The rest of the time is figuring out, okay, are they going to be happy with this? Because if you swing and a miss on that, it's pain. It's a lot of pain for everybody, right? And we all swing and miss sometimes, but the more you can vet that situation out, the better off you are. And when you're training, you don't necessarily get to see that part of it. So that's so you're reinventing the wheel every time you start out in practice. So for them to be able to see that part of it, that's something that we talk about a lot, and saying, okay, if we do X, Y, Z for you, this I think is what you can reasonably expect. And if we don't hit that, okay, then we're going to talk about it, and I want to make it right.
Right.
But if we do hit it, or we go beyond it, then we have to kind of acknowledge that, hey, listen, the surgery did great, and that's the goal, and that's it. So
that's great. What just years of school? How many years of school have you guys done? Like that?
I mean, are you counting like preschool?
Yeah.
So
Start with college.
4 years of college.
She was advanced.
4 years of college, and then 5 years of orthopedic residency. You did 5 years of general surgery, right?
You forgot med school.
Oh yeah, 4 years of med school. Did do that too. And then
13 years.
So 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of med school, 5 years of ortho.
orthopedics, and then I did a year of hand fellowship at Wake Forest.
14.
And so I did
did
4 years
more than
undergrad, 4 years of med school, 5 years of general surgery, 2 years of plastics, and then the aesthetic fellowship. So 8 years. I don't even count medical school. You get to a point
Yeah,
where
I
like
don't
medical
count
school,
college.
I barely remember medical
College.
school.
I thought
I'm
that was
like,
voluntary. Yeah, that's such a great
it's
time.
yeah, college was the best. Medical school was just kind of a checkbox. And I don't remember much of it, but the training is where,
Right.
I mean, that's where
Right,
the
the
rubber
hands-on.
meets the road.
Yeah.
Cut
That's
your
where
teeth.
that's
Yeah.
kind of where you're like, okay, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. Now, people
Right.
put so much emphasis on med school. I'm like, no one really,
yeah.
no one cares.
What was the
Prep
hard,
cycle.
if you guys look back, what was the hardest part of your schooling? Like,
The first 5 years of practice.
really?
It's a big one. I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, for sure. Because you're learning all the things that you didn't learn in training.
books
And you're
and
like,
training,
well,
Not a lot of like long follow up training. You were on a
Right.
rotation for 3 months maybe, so you might see a patient from the same surgery in different levels of recovery, but you never see the same patient.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think that is where you kind of have to learn how to manage your patients over 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. 4 years, oh, okay, all of a sudden, like it's 5 years,
Yeah.
and does it hurt again? Like what is the natural progression of this disease?
Yeah.
How quickly are you going to get better after surgery? Are you really going to be back moving in 3 months? Like, are you going to be back to hammering
Right.
a nail? Well, you kind of have to learn, and then a lot of it is trauma, right? So, I did a ton of trauma when I first started practice. And so just every case was a little bit different. And so getting these people back to work, all that kind of stuff, what to expect.
Yeah.
How long is it going to hurt when I cut the tip of my finger off? How long is it going to be sensitive? When's my sensation going to come back?
Yeah.
Answering all those questions, having never really followed that same patient for an
that
extended
long.
period of time, I think this is just a big learning curve.
It's interesting.
and that's
And
probably
there's no
one
one
of the,
else there.
And that's
right?
probably the biggest shortfall, I think, for all training, especially in the surgical fields, because you get out in practice and really what the patients are asking, what am I seeing? What am I
Yeah.
feeling? Is it normal or not
Right.
normal? And you're looking to your surgeon to tell you, okay, this is normal and this is the timeline. What
Yeah,
it
you gotta
takes
lean on that.
experience to build that up. And the other part of it is, and again, I think that's part of where my practice has gone, is when you start doing the same stuff over and over and over and over again, and you've narrowed your practice to just those things, you get a very good sense of normal, abnormal, or hey, this is going to get better. This is the timeline from it. Versus if you've got a really wide scope of practice, you're not able to kind of build up necessarily that experience quite as quickly. So that was another reason that kind of drew me to kind of narrowing my practice. Plus, the other part of that is it's a team effort, right? Your staff, right? If a patient calls the office and they have a particular question, and every single staff person can answer that question, and they all answer it in the same way,
There's a vote of confidence.
There's a vote of confidence, right? Versus, okay, well, Mary has to call so-and-so, who has to then call so-and-so, then has to call this person that's the only person that knows the answer to that question. So I think all of it just kind of, it builds on itself. But yeah, to her point.
Well, how are you going to answer it?
I think I was not going to
He was going to say
that way, but that was
anatomy
amazing.
101.
Yeah, I was biochem undergrad. Let's see, the toughest part physically was general surgery. 5 years. That
it's a toll on your body.
The best way I could tell people is that, and I mean, this is sad, but I could not do 3 weeks now at this age, at this point in my life. I could not survive 3 weeks what I did 5 years straight. And I'm not joking when I say at 3 weeks I would cry uncle and I'd leave.
I don't know if you would last that long, to be
I
honest
might
with
even
you.
last 3 weeks. Yeah. I have to get a lot of hot chocolates.
Yeah. Cherry on top.
Cherries and whipped cream. It's just the physical toll at that point, and because there were no work hours that you just worked. And it was a great environment, but at some point, like you just physically you just can't do what you used to
I
do.
can see that.
And so I would say probably that time of my life, although it was great at that point, you don't realize
How
I think it's
I'll
kind of
beat
like
up.
childbirth. Like, unless you have a really bad experience as a resident, I think the majority of people who do a surgical resident end up with a group of people who they're friends with for their whole life. You're actually not as close to the
the general surgery
people
folks,
that
yeah.
you trained with.
Yeah.
But like, I just went to my co-resident's wedding like 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago. He's also a hand surgeon, and he's actually stayed in Cincinnati. And I saw, I mean, it was
All your
the
peeps.
best time. We had the greatest time. It was like we never left. But it's a little bit like childbirth or like the first year of having an infant. Like, you black it out at some point in time, all the bad stuff,
Yeah.
or else nobody would have a second kid,
No,
right?
For sure.
And so, I remember, being up, you basically take in-house call, and you're seeing all the consults overnight, a level 1 trauma center. Sometimes you don't sleep. Sometimes you're seeing 20 some odd
Right.
patients overnight from 6 to 6, and you don't have time to eat. And one time I remember presenting cases in the morning to my senior resident. I was eating a bag of popcorn because I hadn't eaten since like 4 o'clock in the afternoon the day before, and I was so hungry. But like, I remember that very fondly,
Yeah.
actually, even though right then it was probably pretty distressing. Like,
It's the
now
badge,
it
it's the
feels
badge
like a
of honor
badge of
that you don't
honor,
want to, that you don't
Right.
want to go through again.
Right.
And I don't even, I mean, that's a whole thing that in medicine they've talked about for years and years is the work hours
Yes.
and does that prepare, lessening the hours, work-life balance. Does
Right.
that do the people come out now as prepared as they used to? And you can argue that to your,
Right,
to your blue in the
right,
face.
right.
What we did, or certainly what I did, and the people, by the way, the generation ahead of me
Had it worse.
had it way worse.
Yeah.
So I think that's up for debate. At the end of the day, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just kind of that was the
Yeah.
experience that we had, and I'm appreciative of that. But it was, you get beaten up a little bit.
Yeah.
So, Michelle, what's a typical week or day look like for you? How many surgeries or
So I usually do somewhere between, if I'm in the OR for a full day on Thursday, I usually do somewhere between like 7 to 13 cases.
7 to 13? Dang.
Yeah, just depending on what they are. The busier I get electively, the less time I have had to do trauma. Plus, I changed my practice a little bit when I had Lauren, and with the intention of being able to change it back. If I decide that I want to
Yeah.
do some more, crazier trauma stuff again, that's always there.
Yeah.
So kind of in this time of my child's life that I'm doing more elective hand stuff. So I'm in the office Monday, Wednesday, and a half day Friday, and then a half day Tuesday. And then I'm in the OR on Thursdays and some Tuesdays.
So once a week surgery, and then the rest is
Once to twice, yes.
once or twice.
Sometimes I'm in the main hospital on Tuesdays doing some stuff for my partners,
Yeah.
things that come to the hospital that need extra attention from somebody that's not them.
Like, where do you hang out when you're not doing surgery? Is there like a room for surgeons that just like,
Surgeon's lounge.
Yeah.
and you guys
Well,
have
they
like,
just call it the doctor's
what's it
lounge
like in
now.
there? Like billiards and
No, it used
Chess?
to be, I think.
It's
They
the
used
worst.
to smoke in there when my dad
Really?
was a resident.
Oh,
Yeah, isn't that
cigarettes.
crazy?
Yeah.
Usually
And
there's
donuts.
There's almost
Lot of
always peanut butter, graham crackers, and saltine crackers. It's like a universal food supply in doctors' lounges. Basically, across
And
the
I'm
globe.
convinced they just took that food from the patients.
Yes.
You're
And they
on the
just
left
transferred
end.
it. It was just the extra
tray.
graham crackers that the patients didn't want to eat, and they just transferred it to the.
I mean,
to the
wouldn't you agree
lounge.
with that?
Yeah, 100%. There's nothing special about it.
Nothing
There's
cool.
there's usually
Very old furniture.
Yeah.
old furniture.
Usually one television. It's on some news source
Yeah.
almost exclusively.
Yep. And then do you guys have to deal with reps? Like,
I texted mine on the way here.
are they,
At
you
a
like
stoplight,
them?
of
Do you like,
course.
are you good with them? Or are you like, there's
Me-
certain ones?
Do you mean my emotional support rep? Yes, I do. I generally don't deal with people that I don't like because there are always other options.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I mean, I don't see there.
So you have your go-to.
In this day and age, there's so many implant
Right.
choices that if you have a rep that you really don't like, I think that most people, unless the product isn't sourced from somewhere else, are just going to use something
Yeah.
different. So I think for people who are going into that field, and interestingly, one of our babysitters has been asking us about, she wants to be a rep. All the girls, they want to be reps.
It's good, great money.
It's a great job.
Nice lifestyle.
Depending, orthopedics is not always a great lifestyle.
Because they got to be in there.
Some of the trauma guys.
That sucks.
Shout out to the Synthes guys. They are being awoken all hours of the night to come in and do cases. But I think that most people.
There are no breast implant emergencies for anybody that wants to go into breast implant rep.
That's a good one.
Just FYI.
Correct. Correct. Those guys, they are wonderful. In Europe, a lot of times they scrub in on cases, or at least they used to. I don't know if they do anymore. But I deal with reps. I think that the majority of reps in Columbia are really great.
Nice. Yeah. I guess follow-up to that would be, like, if you had to pick a different job, are there any like doctors or jobs that you're like jealous of, where you're like, oh, I should love to be a dermatologist where I could.
You talk about doctor jobs in particular?
Yeah, maybe stay in the healthcare world with me. And like, are there any docs where you just see them in the hospital?
I really love longevity medicine.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's like a niche. It's a niche. I maybe dabble in it for my own purposes.
Reading about blue zones.
Reading about blue zones. My 3-year-old says harahachibu.
Yeah, harahachibu is when you're 80% full. And
it's the Japanese, yes.
Yeah. Yes, it's when you're supposed to stop eating where we
correct.
never do.
Harahachibu is only in my 3-year-old's vocabulary, not my own.
That's great.
And dermatology, I think that they hopefully self-admittedly have a pretty good thing going.
Yeah.
And then you could be a Mohs surgeon, so you can do a little surgery too.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about?
I would say I would pivot. Yeah. I would pivot completely away. I love what I do.
Yeah.
There's other things I think are of interest, but medical wise, I think this was it. This was. I learned that in general surgery. I was like, it's this pathway or nothing at all. And I think I would probably pivot completely away if I did.
It's a really not fun answer.
It's a terrible answer, but it's the truth, right? It's the truth,
Then I have 2 quick ones. Any good questions the listener should have for surgeons? Like if they're picking a surgeon or a place to go to, what things should they look, ask, tell?
I think that what patients should actually think about is when a surgeon is telling them about some way that they do surgery.
Yeah.
Like, they should either decide if they want that person to be their surgeon or not. Because asking a surgeon to do something differently than how they typically do it is probably not the right answer.
Sure.
So, my partner does anterior total hips, and he is great at anterior total hips.
Yeah.
And my dad did posterior total hips, and he was great at posterior total hips. And I would say that their dislocation rate was probably about the same.
Yeah.
Because each one of them was great at what they did. And I think for orthopedics, there's so much marketing, right? Everybody's got a billboard, everybody's got a jiffy knee and a rotating knee and a partial knee and an anterior hip and a posterior hip. And it all they make the next one sound sexier than the first.
Yep.
And I think that surgeons are there and they're trying to take care of you and they're trying to do a good job. And if you're unhappy, they're unhappy.
Right.
And we lose a lot of sleep at night worrying about our patients, a lot.
Nice.
And so, like, nobody is trying to do something poorly for you, but if you want something different, then
at the front end,
if you have your heart set on a LRTI done with an internal brace, then you need to go to somebody that's what they do.
So that's pretty normal. Like, you guys aren't hurt. Your feelings aren't hurt if you're like, I want a posterior hip, and you're like, well, I do anterior.
Yeah, and some patients are better suited for one procedure over another, and to their account, most hip surgeons, if they're fellowship trained, they can do both ways.
Right.
But when the anterior hip came out, it was a good example because it was newer, and so there were still a lot of people in practice who didn't do it when it first came out, because it came out when I was a resident. And so there are people who had been doing total hips, doing great for 30 years that never did an anterior total hip. So why would they change at the end of their career?
Sure.
And so I just think that it's important to respect that opinion of your surgeon. And I think it doesn't mean that you don't see them or talk to them about it, and maybe they'll convince you otherwise. and your mind will be changed. But if I think that sometimes patients get dead set on something because of the marketing, and that's their prerogative. But don't expect your surgeon to change the way that they do it, especially
Based off that,
if they're very comfortable doing it that way.
Yep. Nice.
So my last question is, do you have anything bedside manner-wise that you, maybe a funny story of someone that you saw or where they were not great at it? And then what would be your advice to new medical professionals and their bedside manner?
Oh, I
Go up and
have
hit him
about
with a
10
joke.
examples of
I
my
know.
own. I don't need anybody else
else's,
to do that. I think we all, it's like anything in life, like there's always times that we wish we could do something differently or react differently. And most of the time usually it's just in conversation with the patient and you say something that either it just came out wrong or just, it just didn't land. It just didn't land like you wanted it to, right? And not necessarily even like an off-color joke, but it's just something that you say and you're just like, okay, well, I was expecting a different response. and it's never great to start out that way because then you're swimming upstream the whole rest of the consult, especially if it's like, at least in my world, if it's an initial consult, people are paying to be there. They're there. It's an elective thing, right? And they have these expectations of this is how I think it's going to go. And then their surgeon walks in and says something dumb or whatever, like I sometimes do. And they're like, well, okay, all right. But I would just say, at the end of the day, the less transactional you can make it, the better, right?
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, what I have learned over time is that when I get to know my patients a little bit better, when I get to talk to them a little bit about their families, about kind of their personal lives, it in no way does it change anything that I do for them professionally. But I think trust is a huge part of what we do. And I think if you ask any surgeon, if you lose a patient's trust, that's kind of the death knell in the relationship, right? It just, no matter what you try to do after that, it's never quite the same. Even if, your intentions are 100% and they're well thought out. But if you lose that trust, there's nothing you can do about that. At that point, it's really difficult. So for me, I would just, and what I tell, the folks that rotate through me is, it's not really necessarily all about the plan. It's not about how you're going to execute it, because most patients, quite honestly, they don't care. And just a very personal story from me is that I had a heart attack back in 2018 and got stented, and Lexington Medical Center saved my life, but then went on to have a bypass surgery, a big open heart surgery. And sometimes as a surgeon, you just too much, or in my case, sometimes just enough to kind of be dangerous, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, what you're doing is you're going to somebody, you're going to a place, and you're just to Michelle's point, it's like it's just another day for them, and you have to understand that it's me, it's important for me, but I'm going here to trust them to do what they do every day. Right.
I think saying it's just another day is putting it a little bit lightly. I think what we as surgeons always say when we have surgery is like, I had a hip scope done, actually 3, by the same guy. And I left town. This was when I was a resident and when I was in medical school. And I left town because I said, I just want to be I want to be a number, right?
Oh,
I don't want anybody to be thinking any different of me because I'm somebody's medical student or somebody's resident and so I left town, and I wanted my surgery to be another day at the office for my surgeon. And so I think that that is just how I have always thought about it.
Yeah. Like July 31st, 2018, that's when my surgery was, okay? For that surgeon, for that crew, for that staff, it was just a Monday. And that's how I want them to think of it, right? It doesn't mean that they care any less about me, but it just means that professionalism gets carried over, and they're not trying to make concessions. They're not trying to do anything special. They're doing their job for which they're trained to do and very good at. And I am putting my kind of trust into that process.
Our surgery took a lot from the aviation field, so that's where the timeout came from that we do before procedures.
Yeah.
And like you want your plane to fly from Columbia to Atlanta the same way
Yep.
You want the pre-flight check to be the same every time.
Big checklist guy.
Yeah.
Randall loves a good
I'm obsessed with checklists.
Loves-
Yeah.
they
Have you
think-
read the Checklist Manifesto?
I have not read that.
Oh yeah,
Tell me a little bit.
It's so good. It's just it was all about how airplane crashes were almost all human error, and as soon as they implemented the checklist, almost all of the human error went away, and people fought back against it, and people thought about it, but they were saying even if someone had 10,000 flights and the first 9,000 the fuel guy filled up the jet every time, he might not look at it if he's not required to, and then all of a sudden the plane crashes, and it's because the fuel guy was sick and it was a substitute fuel guy that day, but he was so used to it being done, he didn't even check his fuel gauge.
Yeah.
Todd's a pilot.
So the corollary
a
to that,
pilot.
so the corollary to that is cockpit resource management, CRM, in the cockpit. That was made very big. It came after the big Eastern Airlines crash. I think it was the Eastern Airlines crash down in the Everglades back in the 80s. It was an
You watch a
L-1011.
lot of Smithsonian
A lot of
Channel.
Smithsonian here. Just big Smithsonian guy. Air
Just
disaster
perked up
is my
so much.
favorite. I just I'm like, ooh.
Second win. We
Like,
need
I got
another
an
hour.
opportunity to talk about it. And long story short, basically, this plane crashes in the Everglades because everybody got fixated on a little light that ended up being just a light bulb that went out. They thought the landing gear wasn't all the way down.
Yeah.
And so, in any case, so they looked at it and they made huge sweeping changes to it. So they brought not only the checklist component into the operating room, they've brought what we call cockpit resource management. And that basically what that means is anybody in that operating room should and has the right to stand up to anything that they don't think is happening correctly. Because it used to be, very much the captain was the captain.
Yeah,
you don't question the captain. The surgeon was the surgeon. You don't question the surgeon. But nowadays, the culture is
shifted,
so different, and I think certainly for the better is adding the checklist and then making sure that I've got scrub techs with combined 60 years of experience, right? If they see something that's a little out of the ordinary, like they need to speak up. They need to say, hey, what about this? What about that? Because I think that's where that team approach, because it's all about the patient. No matter what, it's all about the patient. It's all about doing a safe, really good, effective surgery, and you really kind of need that entire team to be on that on board with that.
Yeah.
As long as it's not like the 21-year-old student being like,
let me see that
It's
knife.
a half moon. It's a half moon, and the vibe feels off.
Yeah, right. Well, I will say I've operated in Central America and South America, and I would say that I haven't operated in Europe, and I think there's a lot of great, obviously, centers there. But I would hold the United States surgical sort of readiness and standards to anything, and I would feel totally comfortable. I'm not sure there's another country I would want to have surgery in.
Yeah, across the board.
Nice.
Yeah, across the board.
Love
I
that.
think the idea is that if you go to somewhere in the middle of Kansas, they should be practicing similarly as they do in New York City, right? Now, people may have their specialties, and you go to MD Anderson for certain cancer treatments, et cetera. But in general, if you go and have a particular surgery that should be done anywhere, it should be done very similarly.
All the regulations,
all the
for
regulations,
centers
all of
and-
that. And so I think we're pretty unique. With
Randy's
that.
calf implants he got in Costa Rica. He's a little concerned.
Yeah, you guys haven't said anything about my calves.
Can't wait to see them.
I think one might be upside down. Don't worry about it. Still looks great. Looks great.
Oh man, this was so fun. Thank you guys so much.
We'll talk about the new building.
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Hit the building and how
Sure.
people find you.
Yeah, so the new building. So I transitioned into private practice in 2022. It was about 18-month build process. It was a ground up construction, and I grew up in West Columbia, so it's kind of where I grew up and at home on Sunset Boulevard. And I'll give a great shout out to LTC Architects, Wes Taylor, and then Cone Construction. Did all of it. They just did a fantastic job straight from
Christy
from the
Davis
beginning.
Interiors.
Christy Davis Interiors. She designed it, all the interior
Me
and
and-
a lot of the external features.
She
as
will
well.
tell you where to put your light sockets. It's like kind of
That's
crazy.
great.
When she's there on the ground up, she went shopped for beds with us Flew up to
it
Louisville,
was
look
it was a
at-
great experience. Kind of a little bit like childbirth, probably one that I will never have again, and will be very happy to not have again. But
Yeah.
it has served us very, very well because we have a surgery center there. So it's kind
Yeah.
of a one-stop shop. But it was great. It's about 8,000 square feet, and it's a really, really nice place to be able to go to work and just you have that kind
Yeah.
of that one place that you get to go to and call your own.
really wonderful esthetician, Christy Toll. You've got the BBL Moxie laser.
BBL.
BBL. Not that BBL.
Not to be confused
Yeah, I don't want.
with-
Yeah. I don't
He
want.
got, Todd got
Broad-
real excited.
Broad
I
base.
saw him
adjust
adjusting himself a little bit. It's like make sure you bring
Sitting
the
up.
Todd BBL stands for.
broadband light.
Yes.
That my BBL.
Your BBL.
Not the
Yeah,
Miami
not the one
esque BBL.
Not the one we were hoping for.
Yeah. I guess you didn't do the package, the calf implants.
No, they didn't do that. Mine was.
Mistake.
Yeah, should have added that on for an extra $500.
Yeah, it could have gone very well for you. You know.
But you're quad ASF certified. Your surgery
Yeah.
center
What-
is really wonderful. And
Yeah,
Wow.
it's done very well for us. It's been very good to us. The community, I have to say, I grew up here in Columbia and just since 2012, just this entire community has supported me just incredibly. The nurse injectors here in town, it just the community at large. And I owe so much to Columbia that took care of me growing up. It was great.
That's all. And how do people find you?
Certainly, 3566 Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia is the actual physical space, but also they can get a hold of us, 803-681-5438. Certainly email at lift@lefkowitzmd.com, and then Instagram, which is Todd Lefkowitz _MD.
Throw a
So
couple
either way.
DM with some nudies in there.
Listen, whatever it takes.
Whatever works.
Whatever works, right?
Love that.
This is what I don't want. Right?
All right. Thank you guys
Thank
so
you
much.
guys so much.
We're here for the health of it.
For the health of it.
Just a quick note, this podcast is for informational purposes only. We're not meant to replace your doctors, and nothing here should be taken as medical advice. Always check with a qualified professional before making decisions about your health. The views and opinions expressed by our guests or hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of this podcast. Reliance on any information provided is solely at your own risk.